Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I have here a very special guest. It's truly an honor to have this man on the show. Not only was he Carlo in one of the greatest movies of all time, The Godfather, he also took out Pablo Escobar's number two, lost his virginity to Marilyn Monroe, took singing lessons from Frank Sinatra, acting lessons from Marlon Brando, and was groomed by Frank Costello. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Gianni Russo. How you doing, my friend?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's an honor, man, because you know, I would say for my money, Godfather is the best film ever made.
I'm finding that even more as years go on because I just came from Sicily and for the 50th anniversary of Godfather, and this movie ain't going nowhere. That's like
No,
insane.
no, it's not. And I didn't discover it until when I was a little older. But I think I seen Goodfellas first, and then I think maybe Casino, and then as I started diving into more of the gangster movies, obviously everybody said you got to watch The Godfather. So then I go back and rewatched them, and I mean it's such a masterful piece of film, and then everybody in it, including yourself, was just at the top of their game. I mean, Brando, and we'll get into some of those stories here, and Jimmy Kahn, and I know you two kind of had a riff throughout that filming, but we'll get into The Godfather here shortly. But you got a hell of a story in front of you, my friend, and we're going to try to get into it here today because at the age of 5, you actually was diagnosed with polio. Is that right?
That's six actually. I got polio in August of 49. Got quarantined 5 years in Bellevue, and
Wow.
nobody knows the definition at 6 years of age of quarantine till you go through it.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming. So I saw nobody, no family members, nobody for 5 years.
Jesus. I mean, how was that in your head? I mean, how was that playing as a kid? What do you do? I do know at some point you get a radio from a nurse. What was Dolores Barone?
Wow, you did your homework, yeah.
I sure did. I sure did.
You know what's so interesting about that radio? A very close lady friend of mine found this radio and gave it to me for my Christmas present this year.
Really?
Is that weird? Since 1949, an 8 transistor Sony radio, and it works. That saved my life, though. Dolores Barone and that radio saved my life
Well, they built
because,
they built the lasting back in those days. That's probably why it still works.
well, not I don't even know about that. I'm talking about where I'm coming from. Is that, it's not like the hospitals we know now.
Right.
You got televisions, you got this. I stood at a ceiling. I was there 4 months. My birthday's December 12th. As my birthday was approaching, I asked her, I said, "You mean nobody's coming? No family member, my mother, father, nobody?" They said, "No." And this is a classic story because Sinatra asked me this story one time. Carlo Gambino sent me the transistor radio. And now, unbeknownst to me at 6 years old, I didn't know if Carlo Gambino even knew who I was. But what he did know, he knew my Uncle Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
And my Uncle Angelo was hung in Sicily in 1948 and was responsible for a lot of these people coming to America. And the old timers kept that respect going, and it was extended to me, fortunately.
Wow. So when you got that radio, that was kind of like your, I guess, window to the world, so to speak. And Sinatra was pretty big on.
Well, not only that, when I turned it on, most of the audience don't notice, it was December 12th, my birthday, which is also Sinatra's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So all day long, they were talking about Frank Sinatra and his humble beginnings and how his mother was a barmaid in Hoboken and all this. And he inspired me and he gave me a drive. I wanted to get out of here. I figured if this guy could do it from Hoboken, I could do it from the other side of the river. And went on to stay friends with him forever. He opened State Street for me. He opened my
Wow.
nightclub, State Street.
Yeah.
He baptized my son, Luciano. So, I mean, he's really a great guy.
Well, not only that, when she gives you that radio, she also delivers a message as kind of a warning for things to watch out for.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. I mean, imagine we're talking about a pedophile in late 40s, early 50s. Nobody knew what a pedophile was. We didn't even talk about it. And it's not like today, everything is so open. My grandchildren know about him already, I think. But she let me know this kid was coming. And I had a sixth sense, and I still have it. And one day, dragging, because they wouldn't give you the bedpan once you had some strength. And fortunately, my whole right side of my body was okay. It was my left side. Mm-hmm. So once they saw that I was building up my muscles, they wouldn't give you a bedpan. They encouraged you to get out of bed. So I'd sliver out of the bed and crawl along the floor and get on the rails to take us to the bathroom. And I was in a hurry to get back to the bed because that's all I was going to do. And I couldn't stand up at a urinal because I had no balance. So I used to go to the toilet. And one day, this porter's broom, a little short broom they use in the theaters, those, you may be familiar with them, a little short little broom.
Yeah.
There was blocking me. So I put it under my right arm and continued. And when I got to the bathroom, I broke the bristles off. Don't know why I did it. And then I'd just sit on the john as long as I wanted to. And I was using the grout of the floor tile, and I sharpened it into a spear as a weapon, not knowing what this guy was coming for, what he wanted to do, if he was coming. And I always went to the same stall 4, got my broom from behind the radiator that was hung on the wall and put it on the floor. And sure enough, he came one night. So at the age of 12, you can imagine when this happened, I was already there 5 years. The word spread like wildfire down in Little Italy that at 12 years old, I took out this guy.
And the hospital kept it very quiet. They didn't want it to really get out that this guy had been doing.
No, they don't want to know anything. Because, it was a state hospital. To think that all these kids were in there and had a pedophile as a physical therapist. So it was a different time then, no news bulletins or everybody having a camera on their phones and all that.
Well, obviously, you got the rest of your life to live. So the polio, you were able to overcome that, but wasn't there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there like a first vaccine that some kids took when you were in there, and a lot of those kids wound up dying?
Well, I was part of the experiment with Jonas Salk. And I found out later on, my first book, Hollywood Godfather, mm-hmm. which is a bestseller and still selling, I turned it into a musical. And I got a guy who works for me. He worked for me on Seabiscuit and all that. And he finds all the memorabilia type things. He found a photograph of me in a body cast at the age of 6. I was the poster boy for the March of Dimes for President Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Wow.
And it's part of my show, which people, as I put this show together, it took about a year, but all I hear, oohs and wows and all that during the audience, because the stuff that's there, even pictures of me and Marlon as a kid, stuff that nobody would ever find. I have it, fortunately.
Wow. So now after you kill this guy, you're actually on the streets and you're selling pins, right? Is that right?
Well, not immediately. They moved me up to the psych ward for 72 hours.
Yeah. And then you escaped there,
under
right?
observation. And then they, realized there was nothing wrong with me. And Dolores made them think she was bringing me down to my parents to get me released and down on Bellevue on 30th Street. And she put me in a cab, and she leaned over to the cab guy, gave him a few dollars, and she came from the same neighborhood, and said, take him to the Ravenite, 247 Mulberry Street, which became, the clubhouse at the Gambino.
Yeah, for John Gotti's hang out.
Everybody, yeah. So it's my life started early on, and fortunately, I still have the life, man. It's still doing strong.
So when did you first meet Frank Costello?
It was about 4 or 5 months. Ballpoint pens just came out, And I used to go, my grandfather used to come take me for walks. I knew what he was doing just for me to exercise myself. And I used to work at Magnati's Bakery at night, which was great for me. Again, unbeknownst to the hot temperatures, the cold ovens from the bread and the flour taking all the humidity out of the air. Mm-hmm. I have no arthritis or anything. I got friends of mine who are healthy, getting hip replacements, this replaced. I'm getting nothing replaced. So this one morning we walked down to Delancey Street to Leo Rabinowitz's. He sold, old stationery stuff. And he was so excited about having ballpoint pens. They just came out. You didn't need inkwells anymore. And the pen held its own ink. And my grandfather was just down to get pads and pencils for his club. They played zig and egg games and all that. So he didn't want the pens. So the next day I went back there and I told Mr. Rabinowitz, I said, I think I can help you with your business. As I get out of work around 8 in the morning, if you give me some pens, he said, I give nothing to no one. I said, let me rephrase this. Lend me 10 pens, 20 pens. If I sell them, the next night I come back, I pay you, and you give me them again. He says, I'm going to do it because I know your grandfather. I said, no problem. So that went on. I exhausted downtown. So I moved uptown. I took the train on Canal Street, got off at 59th Street, and I found myself across the street from the Sherry Netherlands Hotel. And I stayed there for the next 3 years and made a fortune.
And that's where you bumped into Frank.
He came there every day between 10 and 10:30. He used to live on the west side. And I didn't know what he was doing there. We'd stop in and get a shoe shine and then go on to the Waldorf Astoria where he made his office. Mm-hmm. And every day he would give me words of wisdom, give me a few dollars. And before he left, he always grabbed my left shoulder, which was my retarded shoulder. I didn't care what he was touching. Give me $4 or $5. Forget about it. It's like a $100 bill. Go ahead. Always dressed to the nines. A nice man. And that went on for months. And my ritual, I used to go to church in the morning with my grandmother at Precious Blood, and then go to Ferrara's Bakery, because when Gambino came in from Brooklyn, before going to the club, he'd go have coffee there and meet any legitimate people there. So just out of respect, I used to always wave to him. If he acknowledged me, called me over. And that went on for a while. So this one time I walk out, and right next door to Ferrara's is a Catholic store. It's still there. I can't believe it. And they all sell, it's all of artifacts and statues. So I come walking out, and Ernie says, Gianni, you're Sicilian, right? I said, yeah. He said, I just got these Lagons from Sicily. I said, so what's that? I would wear a cross. I still wear a cross. So I said, what's the difference? He said, well, these are from Sicily. I said, let me see it. So it was the true Lagon, but on top of it was a hunchback with a top hat. I said, what's this about? He said, well, the Sicilians are superstitious, are touching cripples for luck. Well, the blood drained from my head because now I knew what this guy was doing. He was always touching my crippled shoulder. So I was so pissed. I thought the guy liked me. So on the way to the train station, they were selling rabbit's foot for luck for 10 cents. So I bought a pink one and I put it in my pocket. I waited for this guy to come. So he comes, do the same ritual every day, nice talk and this, that, and the other. Give me a couple of dollars. And before he leaves, he goes, touch my shoulder. So he goes to touch my shoulder and I move. So he goes to touch my shoulder and I move. He says, what are you doing? I says, no, it's what you're doing. Now understand, I'm talking to this guy. He was the head of the Genovese family.
Yeah.
And a major in the construction of the syndicate with Meyer Lansky and all these guys.
Yeah, Luciano.
Unbeknownst to me, I don't know who the guy was. I said, not what I'm doing, it's what you're doing. What do you think? I'm some kind of a freak? Understand, I'm a 12-year-old cripple talking to this mobster. He says to me, you know who I am? And I said, I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know you. I thought you liked me. You treating me for luck? I got something for your luck. And I reached in, I gave him a pink Rabbit's foot. Well, the guy that was with him every day, I thought it was his friend, but it was Blackie, his bodyguard. He said, you believe this kid? He said, you know who I am? I said, no, I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know. So he said, Blackie, take that cigar box. I had my cigar box with my money, my pens in there. So I said, you ain't taking my cigar box. And he took out a roll of money, you wouldn't believe, Wade. I couldn't believe what this guy had on him. I mean, big fat Ryan. He peels off three $100 bills. He said, I'm going to buy them now. I couldn't believe him. $300 for about $10 worth of pens. So he says, do you know where the Waldorf Astoria is? I said, I happen to know every public bathroom is in New York. Why? He said, meet me there tomorrow in the lobby under the clock. He said, you know where that is? I said, yeah. He's be there by 11. I was there at 10. I didn't want to miss this guy. So we came, Blackie comes out and says, Mr. C wants to see you. And he takes me back and he tells me something. I couldn't believe it. He said, I did my homework. He says, you got Uncle Angelo Russo? I said, yeah. He says, when's the last time you saw him? I said, if you know him, I never saw him. He said, yeah, why's that? I said, well, you know him, you tell me. He says, well, you got a chip on your shoulder. I said, I spent 5 years in Bellevue. You know where Bellevue is? He says, yeah. I said, would you have a chip on your shoulder? So he says, calm down. He says, your uncle is responsible. My mother, my father, me coming here, even Carlo Gambino. He sent them all there. But in 1948, when they were reorganizing La Cosa Nostra, they raided Sicily and they hung my uncle in 1948.
Wow.
He says, that's why I bought you ballpoint pens. That's why, because of your uncle, we all owe your uncle for being here. You're going to become my messenger boy, my errand boy. Never get in trouble. Nobody's going to put an arm around you. And you'll never get in trouble. I said, okay, perfect. And that's what I did. I did that for 4 or 5 years. I did it until 1973. Even after I made The Godfather, I was still working for this guy.
Wow.
But he changed my life, man.
And there was one time where you got a ticket from a truant officer.
Wow, you did your homework, man.
I did.
Did you read the book?
Oh, I've read most of it. Since we put this together in a week, I read what I could, but I've listened to a lot of interviews. And I mean, I already was familiar with your story before you and I ever hooked up. Luckily, Steve was able to, broker us meeting. And when we was able to put this together, that's why I told you on the phone that day when we spoke. I said, I already know a lot about you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I take that as a compliment. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the situation was that, how do I even start? It was a crazy time for me because I was getting all these accolades, and next thing you know, I'm working for this guy and traveling the world. And I'll tell you the truth, he made me a millionaire before I was 18.
Well, when you got that ticket, was a situation where he kind of had to have you doing something, so he sent you to was like a beautician school where you eventually.
What happened was my route during the day, picking up all the bookies' monies and all that. I used to pick them up, take them to the Wyndham Hotel. So one of my routes was Lindy's, which is a 24-hour diner and all that up on the west side, actually, on 52nd Street. So I came out and there's this guy in a brown uniform. And I didn't know, I thought it was a dog catcher. What do I care about a brown uniform? He says, how come you're not in school? I laughed at the guy. I had like 5,000 in my pocket. I was on my way to Toots Shores. He says, I said, what do you mean school? I don't go to school. He said, well, you got to go to school. How old are you? I said, I'm 15 and a half. So he gave me a ticket, a truant's ticket. He said, you got to give this to your parents. I gave my grandmother's address because I wasn't even talking to my mother and father at that time because they didn't come and see me. Wow. So I walk into Toots Shores with the ticket in my hand. And he noticed it. And he said, how'd you get a ticket? Walking too fast? And I didn't get the joke. So everybody started laughing. Jackie Gleason was there. Toots Shores was like the guy. And everybody hung out there. I mean, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that place rocked until midnight. And he takes the ticket and he said, "This is a truant's ticket." He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 15, going on 16. He said, "How long are you working for me?" I said, "About 2 or 3 years. He said, "You got to go to school." I said, "I don't want to go to school." He said, "Let me straighten this out for you." So the next day I see him at the Waldorf. He said, I enrolled you to school. Just go in 9 o'clock in the morning, sign and leave. You don't have to go. As soon as your 16th birthday, don't go anymore. So I go there, and the lady says the same thing he said. Just come here. Now I get there, and I'm already dressing pretty well already. And because he didn't want, he didn't want no slouch around him. He
Right.
sent me to Layton's budget and picked up clothes and all that. So now I walk into the Wilford Academy, and there's 20, 30 young girls there. So I'm saying to myself, where are you going to find 20 or 30 girls at 9 o'clock in the morning? So I used to stay there for 2 hours before I had to go see him. And fortunately, one morning, Mark Sinclair and Kenneth, who was Senator John F. Kennedy's wife's, Jackie, hairdresser. And then when she became first lady, she bought him a salon. So they were there to find shampoo boys. They were working at Lily Daché, 56th and Park, which I used to pass there all the time on my route. And well, you see the society ladies getting out of limousines. So the teacher explained to me, if they pick you, you can go there. It counts as coming to school, but meanwhile, you'll be making tips. So I was hoping they picked me, and they did. These two fun oaks. They thought they're going to have their way with me. Forget about it. So now, so now I'm standing at the staircase, and then they call my name. I go up. They give me a slip. They never said the person's name. You went to not a shampoo basin, but a room, because these women are high society, dress well. Now they give them a robe. And this lady is facing in a shampoo basin. We know how that is. She's staring at the ceiling. I don't even know how long I was looking at her, but it was Marilyn Monroe. Oof. And I'm saying to myself, this is Marilyn Monroe. Am I nuts? So she finally says, "Is there somebody here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry." I said, "But," so I went over and did the whole routine, test the water, heat the water up, touch her wrist so she approves the temperature. And I read her card. She wants a strong massage. Now, your audience, and well, we all know the configuration of a shampoo basin. So to clean this up for your show, I got my 3-piece set on her shoulder. And I'm giving her a massage. She's moaning like we're having sex. But how I already knew her, my routine when Costello went home at night, I'd either go to St. Patrick's Cathedral or I'd go to the Paramount Theater because they're open 24 hours a day on Broadway. So I saw something like it had already 10 times. And I kept visualizing her singing in that see-through dress, "I Want to Make Love to You." So I'm 15. I got an erection. I'm poking her in the ear with it. The funniest thing, though, she starts requesting me. And this went on for a while. Then about a month or two goes by. Costello says to me, "We have a guest. She's going to be staying here for a year." It's okay. He says, "I want you to check in on this week. I'm going deep sea fishing." Used to go to Chicago with Tony Accardo. They used to like go fishing. He says, "But don't go up there until noon." It's all right. So I go up, I knock on the door. Marilyn opens the door. She says, "Johnny, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, Mr. C told me to check in on who's ever staying here." She said, "Come on in. I just ordered room service." I don't know what room service is. I've never been in a hotel room. She's got all these carts with food on and all that. She said, "Have breakfast." I said, "I had breakfast hours ago." So I have a glass of champagne. I said, "Champagne? I'm only 15. She says, "You can have anything you want in this room." And she gives me a glass of champagne. Now I got a little embriac right away. I had a little glass of champagne in the middle of the day. Forget it. So she said, "I'm going to go take a bath." I said, "Okay, I'm going to go downstairs. Everybody knows me here. Just call the front desk. Tell me you want the kid to come back up." She said, "No, no, no." She takes me by the hand and walks me into the bathroom, turns the water on. And she goes over to the vanity. She's comb out my hair like I did in the salon all the time for her. So I okay, no problem. So she lowers her robe a little bit. And I'm saying to myself, who's going to believe me? I'm over here in the suite in the Waldorf Astoria with Marilyn Monroe. So now she walks over to the water, shuts the water off. She says, take a bath with me. I said, were you crazy? She said, take a bath with me. I said, you're going to get me killed. She said, who's going to tell anybody? And with that, she drops her robe. I
Ooh.
can't believe this is Marilyn Monroe. I'm standing there. And she gets into the tub. She's getting in the tub. So I took off my clothes and I get in the tub. Make a long story short, that was Saturday afternoon. I left Monday morning. So I got to see Costello. I go downstairs. It's like almost 11 o'clock. I go in there. He says, man, you look tired. You okay? You get any rest today? This weekend? I said, yeah. I didn't want to go any further. I won't lie to the guy. And we get right into business. If he ever knew I was upstairs with her, he would have killed me. But that lasted a little over 4.5 years. And in my new book that's out now, other than Godfather, the Hollywood Godfather, it's called The Sixth Family.
Mm-hmm.
It's already a bestseller on Amazon. You go on and get 5-star reviews. It reveals that I had a daughter with Marilyn, who's now 63 years of age.
Whoa.
So now I have 3 daughters. I just found this out.
Wow. So after that night or weekend, I guess I should say, that did you all continue to hook up after that?
Oh my God, yeah. Anytime she had time, I'll come to New York. And it wasn't a romantic thing. What we had in common, first of all, she was a big movie star. What does she need this kid for?
Yeah.
We had parallels. We talked about Bellevue, me at 12. When she was 12, she was put in an orphanage in the Valley in California. And she used to look out the window and see the Warner Brothers water tower. And she used to say every day that someday I'm going to be a movie star. When I was in Bellevue, I finally got the window bed. And I looked out and I saw the Empire State Building. Up until that time, I only saw 5 or 6-story buildings down on Mulberry Street. And I said, someday I'll be uptown. So we had all this in common, and that's what it was. And she basically just needed a hug like I did. Yeah. And that's what it was about, basically. But, you know.
And you guys stayed close, too. You were with her, the weekend before her death up there at Cal Neva?
Oh, yeah, man. Which you're going to find out something shocking. I won't tell you. In this new book, because I was with her in Cal Neva when they were trying to blackmail Robert Kennedy, well, unbeknownst to us, Sinatra was up there, and I was the eyes and ear for Costello, Sam Giancana, and we were up in Cal Neva, and they were trying to convince Marilyn. They had her cabin wired with wire and cameras, and they wanted her to be with Robert Kennedy one more time because he had his way with her also. But unbeknownst to us, she started screaming with Sinatra, I want nothing to do with these Kennedys. I'm going to the press. She just had an abortion of Robert Kennedy's baby because he forced her to have it because, you know, he was still married to Ethel and all these kids. And 3 days, when I came back to New York, I told Costello, and unbeknownst to me, the world thought she was dead 4 days later. But there's new revelations to that now in this book.
Wow.
Is it? Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, our listeners are going to have to go pick that up because there's a lot of mystery and I guess you could say corruption might not be the right word, but I guess shrouded in mystery, her death. You know, there's tales of Peter Lawford being there. There's tales of Kennedy himself, Robert Kennedy showing up.
Well, Robert Kennedy, you know, being an attorney general, you don't go into a state and they don't know you're there.
Exactly.
He denied he was there. But then the ambulance drivers, as the years came on, Netflix did a whole thing about Marilyn.
Yeah.
And disclosed a lot this summer, too.
But there was a cop that pulled them over.
Exactly.
He pulled them over leaving. Or he was either leaving or going. I can't remember which one it was, but he pulled over Kennedy and some others.
And Peter Lawford was driving.
Yeah.
And he saw the attorney general in the car. But what's interesting about that, this all came out this summer. I wrote Hollywood Godfather 5 years ago. It's in my book. So they just glorified my book. My book is still a bestseller, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2,800 5-star reviews. I
Wow.
can't even write my name.
Oh man. So you had a great deal of I guess persuasion in getting the Godfather made, because it was not looked upon kindly by some of the bosses when it was trying to get made, but you kind of persuaded them to see the light, how that could be profitable. Tell us a little bit about that, how you put this together.
Well, the only boss that was really upset about it was Joe Colombo.
Right.
Joe Colombo Jr. was just arrested by the FBI, and he was using the book to say that, they were defacing the Italian Americans, making them all look like gangsters, and he didn't want the movie to be made. But basically, he was just grandstanding.
Yeah.
And I know mob guys until even now, they're still around, some of them. If there's a way to make money, they'll listen to you. So I came up with this story, and I flew in because I was in Vegas, and I went to see him. He was on his club on 86th Street in Brooklyn. I said, Joe, he said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm hearing about all this stuff about the Godfather. You want it made? He said, nah, that ain't going to be made if I'm around. And he just hired a guy called Barry Slotnick, a young lawyer, and which is ironic because his son, Stu Slotnick, today is still my lawyer. Is that wild? And Stu is at the same firm, Buckingham, Ingersoll, and Rooney. They represent me as we speak.
Wow.
So with this said, I said, we can make a lot of money. So he emphasized, he said, oh, we can make a lot of money? I said, yeah. He said, how we're going to make money? I said, well, you got Barry here. Let him read the book or the script. And what you don't like, if they agree to change it, you give them the cooperation, the neighborhood, the unions, and the locations. And then you will ask for the world premiere in every major city. We'll make millions of dollars. Here's how we're going to do it. I said, the night before, we'll have a gala for the league. So it looks great. They're raising all this money. They'll pay $200, $250 a ticket, writing it off, and we'll chop it up. He said, you can get this on? I said, I don't know. I said, give me permission to go talk. So he looked at Barry. He said, what do you think, Barry? He said, I don't know, go up there. Now I'm on Madison Avenue now. That's where the league office was. Mm-hmm. I walked right up 59th Street because Gulf and Western Building is now Trump International. So I'm in the lobby, and I see them all coming. Bobby Evans, all of them. They were on the news about all this stuff. So I approached them, and I said, you got a lot of problems in New York. I could straighten them out. They all looked at each other. We don't have no problems. I said, excuse me. I just left Joe Colombo. They said, what? I said, I just left Joe Colombo. He wants me to arrange a meeting. He said, you just left Joe Colombo. He'll come and meet with us? I said, yeah. They said, when will he come? I said, when do you want him? They said, can he come tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock? I said, he'll be here. So I walked back down. I told him to get the meeting on. But I told him, which is an interesting part of film history, I said, they all read the script. They read the book. You're Joe Colombo. We got to bring a couple of heavies with us. So I knew personally Joe Butterass's, Joe DeChico. I knew Boozy DeChico, Joe DeChico, that whole family. In fact, Frankie Boy DeChico, if you remember in crime history, was blown up mistakenly, thinking it was John Gotti.
Yeah, thinking it was Gotti. That was the Chins people did it, or Gas Pipe, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gas Pipe did it. So the interesting thing, so now they bring Joe DeChico, and they bring Lenny Montana, who played Luco Brasi in the real film. Yeah. But he was a collector for them because he was an ex-wrestler and he used to collect the vig for the Shylock or deadbeat guys. So we go to this meeting on the 33rd floor, and everything is arranged. They're all shaking hands, this, that, and the other. And I look at Joe. I said, Joe, what about me? I said, Joe, can you have them all sit down, please? They're ready to leave. So he just raised his hand like God, and they all sat down. So I said to Ruddy, I said, if it wasn't for me, I wouldn't have brought him here. Now that I'm here and this is going on, I want a major part in this. He said, well, we didn't, start casting everything yet. I said, well, who's playing Michael? Now, this you're going to be surprised at. He said, James Caan. I said, please, playing Michael? He says, yeah. He said, who's playing Sonny? They said, Carmine Caridi. He's in a play called The Man from La Mancha. They thought Sonny should be this big guy. I said, well, who's playing Carlo? They said, we didn't get to that part yet. So I said, Joe, I want to play Carlo. So he looks at me, you want to play Carlo? He's here. He says, he's playing Carlo. They're all looking at each other. Now, this is Stanley Jaffe. This is, every major guy, including Bobby Evans. And Coppola wasn't even there. He had nothing to do with this meeting. So I said, what about it? So Joe Colombo chimes in. He says, he's playing or I'm out of here. He's playing Carlo. And that's how I got the part of Carlo, which changed my world, obviously.
Yeah.
46 movies later. Hello.
Yeah. A great career, man. And from what I understand, Brando was kind of taken aback. He thought you might have had a lot more experience than you did. And he was just very shocked that this was your first move.
He was trying to get me fired.
Yeah.
And in fact, the first rehearsal was up at Fat Tony Salerno's, up Patsy's on 119th Street. That's where the first rehearsal for The Godfather was. That's how my luck runs. I can't believe we were going there. Now, I used to go up there and bring overnight loans up there, night when the Ziggurat games, crap games. So I went up early. There was 100 years of good behavior at the bar. Tony was there. Tony Federici was there. Fat Tony Salerno. Oh, there were everybody there. And they said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here for the rehearsal. They said, rehearsal for The Godfather? Yeah. They said, what are you going to do? I said, I got a big part. They said, you're not an actor. I said, I got a big part. They said, come on. They thought I was lying, like everybody else did when I said I was going to be in this movie. I wasn't an actor. They knew I was bouncing around with Costello. So now we go into the rehearsal that you're bringing up. The first, before they brought Brando in even, they told everybody, don't approach him, don't have eye contact with him. And all these young thespians, I didn't know Jimmy Caan from A Hole in the Wall, but he studied with Stella Adler. All these guys were professionals. Mm-hmm. Plus, then you had the professionals. So the first break, he comes right to me. He says, you're a big TV actor. I said, no. He says, you got a big movie coming out. I said, no. He says, well, you're not on Broadway. I know everybody on Broadway. I said, you're right again. I said, this is a quiz show. So he looked at me and he calls Coppola over. He says, Francis, this guy's playing Carlo. And he was like, didn't like the idea either. He said, I know, and he rolled his eyes. So I don't know protocol. I'd never been on a set or in a rehearsal even. So I said to Coppola, I said, get over there, man. I want to talk to him. And he left. Now the whole room goes quiet. The whole cast was there. And they're saying, who is this guy? He just dismissed the director and he left. So now, not only am I looking at him, I put my arm around him because I knew there was no game going on during the day. I walked him in the back. I didn't want to insult the guy. So I go nose to him so nobody hears me. I said, let me tell you something, Mr. Brando. I have all due respect. I know who you are. But I told everybody I'm doing this, and nobody believes I'm doing it. Now, if you get me fired and I get embarrassed throughout the world, I will suck on your heart today, right here. You will bleed out. He looked at me. He stepped back. I don't know if he was going to call a cop, what he was going to do. He said, that was brilliant. You could really do this part. He thought I was acting. I was ready to take him out.
Well, and he's not the only person that you had issues with. I mean, Caan wasn't a fan that you got that role either.
Well, people don't, till Jimmy Caan just went to his death. Right. I don't know if you had the opportunity. Did you read the obituary I wrote about him?
No.
You got to go online. New York Post. Jimmy Caan's obituary by Gianni Russo. It went haywire through the world because I said, you don't want me to do this. I don't like the guy. They said, we know that. They said, we know that. You got to, I can't believe they printed it. No, Jimmy.
Yeah, I got to go find it.
No, but the problem was Jimmy really was playing Michael.
Right.
So when they changed all the casting, he thought maybe I had something to do with him getting the smaller role. Sonny was done half the picture. He's gone.
Yeah.
He was ready to do 1, 2, and 3 like Michael did. So he took it out on me. I didn't know that. And I
Yeah,
never did a scene, fight, or I did nothing.
yeah.
This
The
guy gave me
fight
a beating.
scene that you guys had, he was really laying them in. Like
Oh,
he
man, he
wasn't pulling
no.
up.
We choreographed it the day before. It was like 17 camera setups because you have to hit your marquee and all this for focusing.
Mhm.
That next day we do the scene, man. He gave me a beating. In fact, the Billy Club, when he first pulls up that he threw at me coming off the stoop, that wasn't even in the rehearsal. He added that. He must have practiced all night because he hit me right over the head. I couldn't believe it. And I was saying, what's going on here? And they cut because I fell behind the car.
Yeah.
They came over, I had a little gash in my head. They said, you want to stop? I said, no, let's keep going. What do I care? That's then he throws me over the railing. He's biting my hand. And then he's banging my elbow, I'm trying to protect myself with those steel garbage pails. They were like 5 pounds each, those things. But he was banging me, he chipped my elbow. And I'm saying, I said, this is nuts. And then I got to crawl out. I know I got to crawl out and he's going to kick me. Now we had it down. As soon as his toe touched my chest, I rolled over. Well, this time he lifted me up, man.
Mm.
And I didn't find out till later. He broke 2 ribs. I'm laying there with the hydrant water on me. And I made a big decision. I said, I'm never doing a fight scene again. This is nuts. I'm going to make love scenes. Forget this.
Changed the worldview on acting there. Well, but the scene you had with your death scene in there, though, I mean, that was so brilliantly acted because I think I've heard you say before, you've got to, obviously you read the book, you knew you weren't going to make it, but you've got to go along with the fact that you think Michael's going to let you live.
Well, that was all Brando. I mean, Brando. What people don't realize, Dick Smith, his makeup guy who travels any movie he does. It took him 3 hours every day to transition him from Brando 45 into Old Man Corleone. And everybody wanted to go to his dressing room. He called for me and we'd go over lines. And he said to me, the most important scene is the one you just brought up.
Yeah.
When Michael comes into your house and he says, Carlo, you got to answer for Santini. You know you're going to die, but you can't let the audience know you know. And you want to look for hope. I said, how am I going to do that? He said, when they hand you the airline ticket, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. He said, I want you to sneak a look down, make sure there's an airline ticket. You want to think you may be getting out of there. See, the more you do that, that's the way it's going to read. And I tell you, I got nominated at the Cannes Film Festival for Most Promising Newcomer. And all they play is most of that scene is always played. Mm-hmm. But I would never worked if Brando didn't help me.
How many?
What?
I was going to say, how many takes did it take for you kicking that windshield out? Like that had to be pretty difficult to grab.
That's the easiest part of the whole scene. You know, it was harder when we do the master, me and him, Michael, and everybody around me, and working up that emotions. Then it's the 2 shots, the close-ups over the shoulder. You're doing like 12 takes, and I'm not an actor. But that's another thing. He says to me, what can you call on in your life that you were fearful of? And I was fearful of polio ward.
Yeah.
And if I was going to get out of there, 2,300 kids died in there. You got to call on that. You got to get that fear and that emotion up. And I got it up 12 times. It's amazing.
But, you definitely knocked that role out of the park, my friend. And obviously, like you said, it set your career, going forward. And after that, wasn't there an instance to where, I don't know how long this was or before the movie come out, but didn't James Caan kind of set you up to stumble over Carmine Persico?
Hello, Junior. What most maybe the audience don't know. My retention is insane. On June 28, 1971, this was the 3rd rally, and I was supposed to be at that rally. And I didn't go. The night before, we're at Gillies on 52nd Street, and I'm with Tommy Bilotti, which your audience may know got shot down with Paul Castellano in front of Sparks.
Yep.
He was my best man when I married Nikki Dawes' daughter years ago in the neighborhood, real neighborhood. So now we're at the bar. Jimmy comes. We're already shooting about 6-7 weeks. And he said, Junior's in the back. He's sitting there with his daughter. He wants you to come back and say hello. I said, okay. So I tell Boozy, I'm with Boozy DeChico. He was an underboss and he was a good friend of mine, and Tommy. So they both heard that. So I go back there, and Jimmy didn't know how close I was with Junior, because Junior had something wrong with his left hand. Nobody knew that. I don't know if it was polio or whatever. So we had a lot in common. So we kiss and this and the other. Then I look over his shoulder and I said, Junior, your daughter is gorgeous. Wow. And he looked at me like with death. When Junior, you get pissed off, Junior, forget about this guy. His face got twisted. I said, uh-oh, I just got set up. I knew it. Now, if you know Jilly's, like most of the restaurants in New York, they had a staircase going to the basement where the bathrooms were. So I went down there to go before I went back to the bar. Two of Junior's guys followed me down. Thank God Tommy Bilotti caught the move. 2 minutes later, Tommy's down there, and one is blocking the door. I'm on the urinal going to the bathroom. And the one guy's starting in with me, like pushing me and that. Next thing you know, I hear a commotion. Tommy hits the door with his shoulder. He was like a bull, this guy. He knocks the guy, maybe 5 feet, gets him and bangs his head on the sink and knocks him right out. Now he goes over to the guy behind me. He said, now what? He said, oh, this guy's a punk. He just insulted Junior. Junior's there with his daughter and with his girlfriend, and he said it was his daughter. He said, well, your friend told him that. He said, what are you talking about? He's Jimmy Kahn told him that. And the guy said, how do I know it's true? He said, you don't have to know. He knocked him right out. By that time, Boozy's wondering where we are. So now he comes down. So we go up. Now he's the only one that can talk to Junior because he's a made guy. So those two go in the kitchen and they call Jimmy in. Jimmy ain't there 2 minutes. Yeah, pa. Junior smacks him. So he calls me in because Junior's a stand-up guy and a gentleman. He's, Johnny, I apologize. I thought you insulted me and insulted my girl. He said, I found out Jimmy told you it was my daughter. I said, yeah. So guess what he does to Jimmy? Nobody knows this story. It's crazy. He's, Jimmy, you want to learn about our life, our thing here? You're going to learn the hard way. From now on, don't come around me no more. Now you're hanging out with Boozy. And Tommy Bilotti wanted to kill him that night. He's out. I'm going to kill this guy tonight. I said, don't do that. I said, we're just 6 weeks into the film. Are you crazy? Let him live. But for all that time, Jimmy never knew when it was coming. And he had people because, he was good friends with Andrew Mush and all these other people. And, Jimmy loved that. From the day Jimmy played Sonny Corleone, he thought he was Sonny Corleone. He's so crazy.
There was a report, and it may have been when he was doing Thief, but he had went, I think, to Chicago and was like closely tied into people that were doing burglaries. I heard this on Scott Bernstein's podcast, OG podcast. And like, I guess they were being watched by I don't know if it was the feds or the local PD, but anyways, they knew that James Caan was going hanging out with these people and they were going to pull a robbery over, I don't know, it was a weekend or whatever. So they go to the hotel where he's at and they catch him in the lobby and is like, look, we know who you're hanging out with. We know what you're planning on doing tonight. We're on them. It's not going to go down. And if I was you, I wouldn't be there.
Oh, wow. I never heard that story.
Yeah. Huh. So he liked to get close to,
he liked
very close to the vest.
Yeah. Oh, no, he liked, and wise guys love hanging around with celebrities.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Jimmy Caan. I mean, in fact, Jimmy Caan went to John Gotti's trial.
Yeah.
And what's the name too? Mickey Rourke. I mean, all these guys are crazy.
Rourke, what was the other guy? Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn was there.
Well, Anthony Quinn, because he played him.
Yeah. Well, he played Emilio De La Croce from in the Gotti movie.
In fact, what's so funny? Part of motion picture history, I was co-producing a movie with Andrew Berglund, like Michael LaBelle. We did 3 movies. We did Striptease, Chances Are, and another one. But Armand Asante was in Striptease with us.
Yeah, he was a cop. Yeah.
And he got called to play Gotti, and you wouldn't play him. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "I don't want to play Gotti." "Are you crazy?" A very close friend of mine, I can't mention his name, he just got out, but he's out. And I tell him, he says, they asked Armand to play John. And we knew that John got a phone 2 hours a night from a guard in his cell. It was the guy's cell, and he used him. So he sends a message to this guy. "Tell Johnny we're going to call him on the set tonight." So I'm waiting for the phone to ring. I don't know what's going on. And it's John Gotti. He says, "You and Armand?" He says, "Yeah." So I go over to Armand. I said, "Somebody wants to talk to you." And he talks to him. He says, "I would take it as a privilege and a compliment you play me." And that's how he played him.
Wow. Well, he played the hell out of him.
Oh, he did. He got sick too because he put the extra weight on,
Yeah.
He got a hernia. About 8 weeks he was sick. Nobody knew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played the heck out of that Gotti. And that's not the first conversation I've had with somebody that talked with Gotti from prison. I don't know if you know Tom Sizemore.
Oh, yeah. Jesus, yeah.
So he played Gotti in Witness to the Mob, which was Bob De Niro's debut. And
right.
He said he got like a bunch of papers or surveillance from the Raven Night, all stuff to look through. And he said he was able to talk with him on the phone when he was in prison. And he said, Gotti says, "Tom, so when's this movie coming out?" He's like, "Well, I don't know, Mr. Gotti, shooting, production, hopefully a year and a half." He's like, "Don't fuck it up." And so Tom's like, "Well, yes, sir, I'll do my absolute best, Mr. Gotti." The Gotti said, "Don't do your best. Do better than that." And then he hung the phone up.
No, I mean, it's so crazy when you hear these stories and you're embellishing some of the things I'm already saying.
Yeah.
No, I mean, John, I knew John. So O'Neill was his man.
Yeah.
That's why he went so crazy.
Yeah.
When the old man,
Carlo,
yeah, appointed Paul, because O'Neill was already a street boss. But
I mean, by normal steps, Neil should have got it because at that time he was the underboss.
Right. But how he explained it to O'Neill, and he took it for a minute. He said, "Listen, he's a big earner. We need him," because he was legitimate. He had Western beef. He had he was big as Tyson with the chickens.
Yeah.
So they put him in there, but that didn't sit well with John.
Yeah.
John didn't care. I knew O'Neill well, man. Really, all my life. There's a guy, man.
Yeah, Neil was a gangster. I mean, Neil was a stone cold old
tough
gangster.
Tough man.
Well, matter of fact, you had to see John. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but he kind of facilitated a ride for you down to Colombia because you own some nightclubs in Vegas, which you've alluded to.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one particular night I wanted to talk about. And I guess even part of that story, too, you had Steve Sharippa working the door for you.
Steve Sharippa was going to UNLV at the time.
Yes, he was.
And I really liked the kid. I met him several times. And so I put him in a tuxedo like a lot of the other guys. He was big like a building. So I was sitting on my perch, State Street we're talking about. I had Sinatra, Sammy Davis, and Dean Martin open it. They were there for 3 nights for nothing. And after that, the place was on the map. And I served food 12 hours a day, 6 at night to 6 in the morning. So I got all the high rollers and everybody like that. That was the reason for me to doing it. So now this guy comes in and I'm watching from the bar. I had like 3 dining rooms I could look down, and I had a centralized piano bar and lounge while you were waiting for your table, raised above all of that. And this guy comes in, he's got everybody $100 bills. So I called Steve from the bar phone. I said, "Steve, who's the guy on 7? He said, "I don't know, boss. They got him came in from Caesars." I said, "How's he rated?" He said, 5. So I mean, they're picking up his check. See, most people don't know when these high rollers are playing, they want to eat. They don't want to go to a coffee shop. With the unions, though, after midnight, there's no gourmet rooms open. So I made a deal with all of them. Send your players to me. I'll send them back. I'll send them limousines for them even. That's where I was taking in all the money. Because I'd whack these guys out. These guys are paying for it. Forget about it. In fact, that guy was not even in the club 10 minutes. He had a bottle of Cristal, a bottle of Louis XIII, 2 ounces of Beluga, and he had an $1,800 bill. And we're talking about an 86. That's a lot of money for two people.
And
no, but that didn't turn out well at all.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, because he basically breaks a champagne bottle and stabs a girl in the eye.
He broke the Cristal bottle and stabbed his date. Fortunately, he missed her eye. Thank God it was a Cristal bottle round. I mean, he moved it down. Either way, she would be blind. Her name is Laura Manis. He picked her up. She was a cocktail waitress at Caesars at the time. And they wound up in my club after her shift. So now I call Steve. I said, Steve, get to table 7. He just stabbed that girl. He said, I ain't going over there, boss. That guy's nuts. I said, what do you think I hired you for? See, I never knew who these guys were again at night. So I figured, let me go over. I, declared myself as my club. And I said, you hear these sirens? They're coming from you. So why don't you just go out the exit? Let me get this girl to the hospital, because she was bleeding, He said, no, man. I said, mean, no, man. Where the hell are you from? He said, you don't want to know. I said, okay. I didn't know he still had the bottle in his hand. So he goes to make a move towards the girl, and then he spins around, tries to get me. So I was agile enough. I went back. He cut me along my chin line, 81 stitches. Ooh. My chin was hanging. Now I'm saying, how am I going to defuse this guy? So I said, look what you did to my shirt. I waited 6 months for this shirt. It's a Sea Island cotton shirt. He's looking at me saying, like, I know this guy's bleeding. I see the blood. He's worried about his shirt. I just wanted to wait to get my hand on my gun, because I could carry that and I had, permit. So that's what I did. I put the gun to his forehead. I said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Go out the door. He's F you. I put 2 right between his head. Right, bing. The blood's coming down his nose. He keeps looking at me. I'm saying to myself, what the hell? He was so high on coke after the autopsy. That's why you got to shoot him in the back of the neck. So I put the other 3 in his heart, falls down. Now they rush me to the hospital. I go with the detective Coots. I get some ice and put it on my neck. And thank God the hospital is like 4 blocks from my club, right next to the country club. So he said, what happened? I said, this is what's going on, man. Guy comes in, stabs the girl, then he stabs me. He said, he stabbed the girl first, then you. I said, yeah. He said, then you shot him after all. I said, yeah. So he gets on the radio. He's anybody that saw that, I want their names, take them in for questioning, actually. And they did. So I went to the hospital, stood there 24 hours, came back out. When I got home, on the country club, security guards every day, there's a whole Marielito on my rug in my living room. And at that time, I already had like 6, 7 kids. They had my kids with the salamanders and this whole thing on the floor. So I called Coots. I said, what's this? They get a girl from UNLV, no less, who studied all this stuff. She said, well, you're marked for death. The guy is a Marielito. And his brother that you killed, he's going to avenge it by killing your pets, your dogs, your wives, your kids, your neighbors, then you. That's when I fly to see John. Now, because he's the only guy. I knew they were dealing, Peter, and they knew people down there. But he was Escobar's top guy, Lorenzo Morales.
And for those that may not know, I'm assuming all of our listeners are probably well aware, but he's referred to Pablo Escobar, who was the biggest coke distributor probably of all time.
Yeah.
And
one of them until Chapo came by.
Yeah, until Chapo come on after he was taken out. But I mean, so you fly down there, you fly solo down there?
Well, I flew to John first. I said,
right,
John, you know anybody? He says, yeah, oh, and he's teasing me. As soon as I walked in there, oh, now you're a killer. You're killing drug dealers. I said, John, it's not like that. I mean, the girl was hurt. I wanted to get her to the hospital. I said, I got to straighten this out. He said, you're going to straighten out what? I said, I'm going to go see him. He said, you're going to go see Pablo Escobar. I said, yeah. He said, how are you going to go down there? I said, you're going to arrange it. He said, not only will I arrange it, I'll buy the ticket. And he did. He thought I'd never come back.
So you go down as soon as you get off the plane, you're pretty much not right in the head.
Well, the only reason I thought maybe I'd have a chance, they told me to meet him in a church, and I'm very religious. So I go there and I see him, what I thought was him at the altar, and on the far right, all the way up in the front. So as I'm walking down the aisle, all the pews start cracking and people are sitting up. He had like 50 guys in the church. So as soon as I get to him, is you Gianni Russo? I said, yeah. And that's all I remembered. Next thing I woke up, I was in the prison he built in the bottom of his house. That's the deal he made.
Yeah.
And I was down there, shackled to a chair in the nude, body bags laying around me. The stench down there was ridiculous. And I don't even know how long. And they were, having their way with me, beating me, this and the other. And here comes a guy, not knowing because I was slouched down in the chair, dressed to the nines, not in fatigues. And in his right hand, he has a book called The Making of the Godfather. I thought I was hallucinating. He says to me, why didn't you tell me you were Carlo? That's my favorite film. Bring him up, clean him up, and bring him to my dining room. Hours pass. I'm in his dining room with him. I can't believe this. I'm saying, like, is this going on in my nuts or what's going on? So he says to me, I want to know one thing. Why did you come here? And again, I don't know what Gotti told him. Gotti could have told him that. Gianni Russo, we fucked up your guy. I don't know what went on.
Yeah.
So I said, the only reason I'm here, Pablo, I said, you have a daughter, Gina, just like my daughter, Gia, the same age. If somebody was going to kill your daughter, what would you do? Sit home? And he got up, walked to me, and he hugged me. He said, there's very few men like us. He says, get out of here. I'll take care of this. So now I couldn't get out of there fast enough. He says, but before you go, come on, I want you to do me a favor. I said, oh, what's this going to be now? And it's funny because the scene you picked. You remember the scene when Michael at the end of the movie comes and confronts you about his brother? He says, yeah. So I want to do that scene. And I'm saying to myself, uh-oh, this is what this guy's going to do. He's playing with me. So I said, do you want me to write down the words? He said, oh, I know the scene. He said, come over here. Sit here. You're sitting at the table. You sit here. And then he takes a couple of his guys and goes to the front door, right, which was right there to the room. And he does the whole scene. Comes in. Carlo, you got to answer for Santini. I said, oh, please, Mike, you got it on. We do the whole scene. He hands me the airline ticket. I'm saying to myself, I'm going to die in this friggin' car. He walks me outside, opens the door. Now, it's not Clemenza in the back seat. It's a couple of his guys, another guy driving the car. As soon as I sit down, they said, hello, Carlo. And they bust out laughing. I almost shit my pants. He says, get out of here. I'll take care of it. Is that crazy?
Oh, man, that's nuts. That's nuts. And, well, I can't imagine what had to be going through your mind because, I mean, obviously, you know that he's one tough customer. I mean, you want to talk about it doesn't get no tougher than Pablo. I mean, just stories that I've heard. I heard that there was a guy that he caught at one of his parties stealing silverware. He tied his hands behind his back to his feet and then threw him in the pool in front of everybody at the party.
Sure.
Jesus Christ. I mean, that's crazy.
No, but the guy had to be stupid anyway, try to rob from him. He had his mind a lot. I've been around a lot of crazy guys, man.
I can tell. We're closing in on an hour here. There's one other story that I wanted to get to real quick because I wasn't aware that this was a thing, but I guess it's only really happened a few times, but we had a story about you and Bill Clinton together.
Oh, my man.
9/11.
I love him.
Your quote is saying Bill Clinton's one of the most charismatic ladies men you've ever seen around, right?
Well, you know how it happened. We were both invited. Carl Solomon, who was a major financier we were in Double Bay, Australia. He got in touch with Bill Clinton, and he got in touch with me. They were doing a big benefit, so we went out there. And we were out there already 4 or 5 days, out every night. I'm with this guy. We're staying at the Double Bay Ritz-Carlton there. And he's at one end of the hall. I'm at the other end of the hall. I got to know Bobby, his top guy in security and all this. But Howard Stern said to me, all the guys you knew, Sinatra and that, who's the most charismatic guy you ever been around? I said, Bill Clinton. He's what? I said, Bill Clinton. It's so true, though. I've been around that. I was around that guy 5 days straight there. This is a funny story I'll tell you after this one. And we're partying. And then Secret Service would come and say, B likes the girl in the green dress, the red dress, this, that. We're going to take them and secure them. We're sending the car back, bring them back up to the suite. And we did this every night. And I'm saying, look at this. I'm pimping for the President of the United States. And we had fun. Spin forward. Now I'm watching television. New York is like, how many, 12 hours, something. We're ahead of you, actually. So we're getting up from all night. And I'm watching frogmen coming down from helicopters on the balcony of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So I go to the door, and security says, Mr. Russo, we got to secure the floor. We're going to move the president. I said, I'm just watching what's going on. This, frogmen, I don't know what they are doing here. He said, turn on the TV. I said, what TV? Just the television, the news. I turned on the news. I watched the second plane hit here in New York. So now, I learned something in history, probably most people don't know. Every living American president, they take to an Air Force base. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
And at that time, there were 7 living presidents. Carter, Ford, they were all. I said, so where you taking Bill? He said, we're taking him to Germany. I said, well, can I come? He said, no. I said, well, you can't leave me here. They said, okay, be downstairs. We'll send another car. They took me to Naples because I figured, let me go to Italy.
Now they do this because in the event of an attack on American soil.
Exactly. And that was the second time only. Pearl Harbor. That was it.
Wow.
Was that wild?
That's why I didn't know that. When I heard you tell that story, and I had never heard of that before, but obviously there's not too many different ways to research it because it's only happened twice.
Right. But it's a written law.
Yeah.
It's a written law. But it's funny because now, this is about 5 or 6 years ago, I do a lot of work with the Mohegan Sun Casino, Tom Cantone and all that. And I host a lot of high roller parties. And they pay me well. I'm hosting a Superbox at the Barclays Center. And Barbra Streisand singing. And she's singing a couple of songs, and she said, oh, and First Lady and Bill Clinton are in the audience, and I'm in a Superbox watching on television, right? So I got Bobby's number on speed dial. If I need Bill, I call him. So he said, well, you're in the room. I can hear the noise. Where are you? I said, well, tell my friend I'm up in Superbox 126 if he gets a minute to come up. And I'm watching the whole move. So I see him lean over, then he leans over, then he leans over to Hillary. And then these two get up. I guess to go to the bathroom. So now I'm waiting. I got the president, the chief of the tribe that has Mohegan Sun with me and all these people. And I'm playing dumb. So the butler from the suite comes to me. He said, Mr. Russo, he says, you're not going to leave us at the door. I said, okay, who? He says, the president. I was president of what? I knew who it was. He's the president of the United States. The chief said to Tom, he says, I don't care when you want to hire this guy, make sure he's around. Let him in. You can't write this stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
And see, you've always been like real keen on that because like wasn't the casino or the places you ran, didn't you buy like some real rare coins or poker chips that had your likeness on them?
Oh yeah, man. Did I ever?
And then
Well,
you got
when I opened my casino, Nevada Coin Company,
yeah.
who makes all the chips, they said, "What do you want on the chip?" That's what you talk about. Well, you have the chips. You have to have the chips. I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'll never be president. Put me on them," and they did. But what was wild about them, I had gold ones, plated, not real gold,
Yeah.
gold plated ones, and they were $20. People would buy them from my casino and never return them. So now I used to get them for nothing. I'm getting $20 for these schmucks to own these coins and carry them around. I sold thousands of them.
And you even have the Jenko olive oil from The Godfather. That's on a website that you have.
Oh no, I got a lot of stuff now. I'm expanding that brand. I own not me personally, but I mean, me and a couple of friends own it now for 7 years. Corleone Fine Italian. And you go, like you said, you go on there and we ship to 73 countries.
Wow.
I got Clemenza's meat sauce in
Yeah,
the
Clemenza. I seen it. I'm gonna have to get me some of that.
I got a new line coming out this quarter. I did a family box. I got Sonny's hot and spicy. I got Fredo's Alfredo sauce. I mean, you won't believe this. But this movie ain't going anywhere.
No, it's not. And for every review that I've heard about this or read about the sauce says it's amazing.
Oh no, everything other. That's one thing I would not. I went to Sicily and Barbera, who's one of the oldest companies there. They do my Genco olive oil. Even the balsamic vinegar, all that comes from Modena. Everything is perfect.
Yeah.
And it's comparable to Rayo's or anybody else's places.
Wow.
But I like business,
Yeah. Well, I think there was a quote Meyer Lansky said one time that I've always used that when people's brought ideas to me for one thing or another. And he said, I'll enjoy it if it's profitable.
Oh, yeah, no. But it's funny you mentioned Maya. I met Maya when I was 16. When I went on the road for Costello, when they were trying to get the votes, because Senator Kennedy wanted to run and Joe had a deal with them.
Yeah.
And I met all these guys. That's how I met every wise guy in the world. The Savella family out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Kansas
City.
Kansas. Yeah. And I mean, you name Nick D'Onofrio in Detroit. I mean, because I was just taking envelopes and messages. But meanwhile, I armed myself with everybody in the world, and I'm a likable guy, and I stayed friends with them all.
That's the best way to be, is keep those kind of friends, man. And
oh yeah,
you wound up working with Al years later, and one of my favorite. I'm a big football fan anyway, but you guys done Any Given Sunday. Yeah,
that was a big movie.
It was. I loved it. And you told a story about how you contacted Tannenbaum from the Broncos.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And it was funny because my brother-in-law at the time was Pat Bowlen on Denver Broncos, and he was on the advertising committee. So it was a coincidence. I walked into Dan Tanner's on Santa Monica Boulevard, and Al Pacino was with Oliver Stone. And I sat down in the booth next to him, we're hugging, kissing, that and the other. He said, "Yeah, we want to talk to you. We knew you were coming." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's about?" He says, "You know a lot about football." I said, "I really don't." He said, No. Yeah, your brother-in-law just won the Denver Broncos, just won the Super Bowl. I said, "Yeah, that's my brother-in-law." He said, "Well, come here, sit with us. We got a film. We got a big part for you in it. I want to meet them." I said, "Hold on." So I called Pat. And that was like 9:30 in Denver. He said, "What are you calling me so late for at home?" I said, "Al Pacino's here. He wants to talk to you." He said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I didn't even wait for him to say anything. I said, "Al Pacino, Pat Bowlen." I handed them my phone. They talked for a friggin' hour. We made a great movie, though.
No, it was fantastic. It's my favorite football movie.
38 movie stars. Is that wild?
That and the program, which also starred James Caan, but the Any Given Sunday, I mean, just with all those charismatic individuals, all those personalities, and it just works so well. Jamie Foxx, Lawrence Taylor, LL. Bellamy. I mean, just everybody in there it was all such an awesome movie. It had to be fun to film.
Oh, I was on it for 4 months. And you know, it was funny because the Denver Broncos, they played the repeat down there and they won it again
Yeah.
while we were
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
Now you can imagine. Because Pat gave me, you know, none of these that I could say it. Every owner that goes gets 2,500 tickets each.
Yeah.
So I said, what are you going to do with tickets? I don't know. I said, give them to me. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I'll pay you 3 times face value. He said, you're kidding me. I said, nope. I sold them for 10 times. I had 50-yard line tickets. I had everything. So, I mean,
there was a similar time I done that. It wasn't on that quite a big a scale. These weren't box seats, but my daughter was a cheerleader, and they had them going to the ACC championship, which they held down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is close to where I'm at. It was the Clemson Tigers and the Clemson Tigers and NC Tar Heels was playing an ACC championship. So they send out this thing that said, if your daughter's in it, you know, we'll give a code. You can buy tickets. You know, it's like $20.
Wow.
I was like, wow, wait a minute. I go and look and they're going, you know, everywhere, every tickets, they're going for 80, 90, $100. Even the high rise seats, you know, I'm like, how many? I sent the lady back. I said, how many can you get? She said, well, we got a max of 10. I said, I'll take 10. So I gave her that. I sold every one of them. The lowest price I let any of them go for was $100. I paid 20 a piece. It was
hello.
Yeah.
Got to make it when you can, man.
Now you mentioned you got Hollywood Godfather out. We're going to put a link to that in the show notes. And the other book you got out, what was that one?
Oh, this new one, man. It's
Sixth Family.
Sixth Family. It's out since my birthday. I was 80 years old, December 12th.
Well, happy belated birthday too, by the way.
Thank you. And
a month ago today.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? This is already getting 5-star reviews.
Wow.
So it's one of first. I was commissioned to do 4 more books, one every 6 months.
Well, you got the stories to pull them off. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's why Amazon got in touch with me directly and said, we want to make a deal with you.
I believe it. Look, man, the next time I'm in New York, I'm going to have to come by and get you a drink or something, man. I appreciate you doing this.
See where I'm sitting? See that dining room table?
Yeah.
Sit 16 people. We're not moving a chair. Right next door here is an 8-stool bar, dance floor, 5 bedrooms. You ain't taking me nowhere. You come here, you will not believe what you're going to have.
And that's Frank's house? Is that Frank's house?
One of them. This was a big gambling hall. I walked in, I was 13. You believe this? 67 years ago, I've been coming to this place.
Wow.
No. And it's right on the Upper East Side, man.
Well, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show. And I've got one last question. I'm going to blow your mind with this question because it's a story that I think anyone can take and learn something from. There's a big history with a certain Rolex watch you wear.
It's got it on now.
You got it on now? Can you show it up there?
I never take it off.
You never take it off.
People have wanted to give me watches. This watch is so unique. When I put it, here it is.
There you go.
This watch is so, but no, the wild of it, all the sides, everything is diamonds.
Yeah. And you seen that watch in the window. You actually had to track down the owner of that watch.
Another classic story. When I used to be in front of the Sherry Netherlands Hotel, and then sometimes I'd walk down to Bergdorf's, Van Cleef and Arpels. They put this watch in 1957 in the window, and it said Cellini Rolex. So I thought it was an Italian watch. I'm a gimp selling ballpoint pens. So Mary, who was giving me, cold water, hot chocolate in the winter, I'm selling this ballpoint pens out there because I wasn't stupid. Standing outside the Bergdorf's, I was a cute little kid. These girls would give me $5 for a pen. I paid 10 cents for it. Forget about it. So I go back to the Sherry Netherlands and I go inside. This is like a year or two later. And I said to the lady, that put the serial number of that watch on it. She said, what do you want that for? I said, this is my goal. I'm going to own that watch someday. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So she wrote it down. So now, unbeknownst to me, I go to the desk clerks that used to see me all the time. I used to go and use their bathroom all the time and all that. I says, could you do me a favor? Because I have no education. And I've learned since then how to write people. But I said, could you write me a letter to Rolex? They says, yeah. I said, I want to know who the owner of this watch is, and I want to know how much it would cost. Now it's 5 years later. So we get a letter back, and they said the next time you're in Dolder, Switzerland, call us if you're coming for the ski season. And I'm saying, what these people crazy? I didn't realize it. They sent Rolex the letter on the Sherry Netherlands stationery. They thought Gianni Russo was living there. They didn't know I was sleeping in the street. So now I go to Rolex. They knew they got the letter. They're not telling me who owns it.
Right.
I said, I'm going to go. I said, how much do you think it would be? And at that time, they said about $9,500 to $10,000. So I transferred $10,000 to Rolex in Switzerland so I could buy it from the guy. So I go there and let them know. Sure enough, 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm there. They come with this little xylophone. I never saw that before. I thought a parade was going to come walking through. And they said, Page and Gianni Russo paid. I got there. And the guy says to me, tell me the story about this watch. And I'm dressed to the nines because, I'm wearing Layton's already and then went to Brioni. I said, well, I was selling these ballpoint pens and I thought it was Italian. And I told him the whole thing. He starts crying. He says, how long are you going to be here for? I said, till I get the pen. Until I get the watch. He says, we'll send a car tomorrow. I said, okay. 11 o'clock. I said, yeah. So I'm sitting there again. Here comes car. I go outside in the car. Beautiful. Like a Dusseldorf, one of these classics. We drive not that far from the hotel, and these big gates open up, and all these people are standing on the porte cochere, all lined up, including the guy that was talking to me. So he apologizes, and he says, my master owns the watch, but we wanted to hear the story first, and he didn't. I apologize. He wants to meet you. He puts me in the study. Guy comes in. Guy's about 5'4", 5'5", dressed to the nines. I mean, he taught me, and I stayed friends with him. So he says, please sit down. I sit down. He says, tell me the story about the watch. I say, hey, you in this freaking story. He said, you got a chip on your shoulder. I said, no, I don't. I said, but, I saved up all these years to buy this watch. He said, but I want to hear the story. So I told him the story. So he tells the guy where to get the watch in the house somewhere. The guy comes down with a dollhouse, like a kid's dollhouse, right? You said you have a daughter.
Yeah.
Every window of the dollhouse was a watch on a winder, automatic winder. He pulled it, the right one was this watch. I put it on. He says, it fits. I said, yeah. He says, how much is it? He said, I don't sell anything. I said, what'd you just say? He said, I don't sell anything. I said, what are you, busting my balls here? I came over here, fly here. He says, well, he never heard anybody talk to him that way. The guy's name is Johnny Agnelli. He owns Fiat Motor Company.
Fiat Motors, yeah.
I stayed friends with him until he died. I went to his funeral.
Did he just give you the watch?
That's what he said. He says, why are you mad? I said, you're going to sell me, you're not going to sell it. He said, no, I'm giving it to you. He gave me the watch.
Wow.
And I just left Jacob the Jeweler. You can go online and see it.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Sicily for Jacob the Jeweler. Jacob the Jeweler, licensed from Paramount, what we have. He made a Godfather watch this year, the 50th anniversary. They start at $500,000 to $700,000. I said, Jacob, are you nuts? Who's going to buy these watches? He's come with me. We flew private jet just in October. He sold 6 of them in one night. I couldn't believe it. That's why this movie's going nowhere.
Yeah, I don't put anything past you. You put anything attached to the Godfather, be it sauce, jewelry, whatever. It's going to sell, and that's the landmark of the greatness of that film, the brilliant actors such as yourself. I mean,
Thank you.
it's one of those landmarks of time that, when even when I'm gone, people are still going to be referencing The Godfather.
Well, there's 4 generations right now.
Yeah.
4 generations. You figure it out. That's it.
Yeah,
I have 3 generations going already myself.
Well, Gianni, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. And when I come to New York this year, and I'm sure I'll be down there soon, I'll definitely hit you up.
No, and anytime you want to interview me, very astute interview.
Thank you. I tried. I told you I was going to bring some good stuff. I told you I've been researching.
No, you did it, man. You're good. No, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And your audience, please.
And you also have a podcast. I'll let you mention that really quick, and I'll put links to it too. But tell them about your podcast that you have.
Hollywood Godfather podcast. They got about 220 hours up. We put a new show up every Wednesday. Got interesting guests, and we'll collaborate.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I'm big on the mob stuff. We've had a lot of the mob guys on the show, so I've always been a fan of this genre and the movies and the backstories of everything for as long as I can remember. That was other kids were watching Christmas movies, and I'm watching Goodfellas and Casino and The Godfathers and Heat and stuff like that. So
you got good taste.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was Carlo from The Godfather, Gianni Russo. Please join in this episode. Let us know what you think. To me, it was fantastic. I couldn't ask for better. We're going to put all the links to Gianni's books, podcasts, meat sauce, everything. Go check it out. Get his books. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. Gianni, thank you a million times for coming on the show.
No, thank you, please. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this episode of Crime and Entertainment. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Gianni, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.